Hey you guys, it's Yesenia from writermom.net, and today I'm making a video all about Scrivener and some of my favorite features. So I know most of you probably already use and love Scrivener, but I know there are a few of you out there who are either new to it, maybe you're not convinced, maybe you don't really know what it's all about, and so today I thought I'd give a little bit of walkthrough so that you can take a look for yourself, see what it's like, um, and then just share some of my favorite, most helpful features with you. Scrivener actually does a whole lot, but really you don't need to use most of the features to find it incredibly helpful when it comes to writing. The number one helpful thing I think is the way like it organizes your manuscript and lets you look at it all at once. So right here, I have my file open. This is the book that I'm working on right now. So all across top here, you see the toolbar, and I'll go through some of that in a minute. But like, if you look at this sidebar right here, this is probably the number one most helpful thing about Scrivener. Even if you don't use anything else, this this sidebar right here is the number one reason you should be using Scrivener instead of something like Microsoft Word or Google Docs or something. The thing about using something like Microsoft Word or Google Docs is that it's like this, long giant document, and you just have to scroll through it to find anything. You have to scroll and scroll and scroll, and sometimes like Microsoft Word bugs out and closes because the document is so big. You can't remember where you wrote something, or it makes it really hard to work through your book to find things, um, to kind of see the whole. So this is my favorite thing about it, is that it just lets you hop around in your document so easily and so quickly and see everything, um, see exactly what's in your book. Um, and whether you write fiction or nonfiction, this is just so helpful. So right here I have all of my scenes laid out. I have, like, you can organize front matter if you want to. I used to format my books in Scrivener. I would say that's no longer one of Scrivener's strengths. I would recommend Vellum for formatting now, especially if you have a Mac. Um, but you still put your whole manuscript in here. Then I have some other folders in here. I have a research folder, which is empty at the moment because I'm only 6,000 words into this book, so I haven't really pulled anything up. Um, Let me actually open up one of my um, projects that is finished, and then you can kind of see what the chapters and everything looks like, how I set everything up. So, and then you can kind of make this the size that you want. So again, same thing here, except now I have chapter folders. I'm kind of weird in that chapters, like, uh, organizing everything by chapters is actually one of the last things I do. I know a lot of writers just think naturally and write naturally in chapters, and that's just never worked for me. I don't really think or write in chapters. I just kind of separate those out at the end. But here you can see the little folders that I have for the different chapters. So this book has 25 chapters, and this chapter 1 has 2 scenes in it. See, I can go very quickly from one to the other. Chapter 2, I can even click on the chapter 2 folder and see the entire chapter here. So this little dotted or dashed line means, that's the separation of the scenes there. Um, just like in Word or anything else, you can format, um, choose the font that you like the best, size, everything. So it lets you do bullet points, all that kind of thing. Um, and then you can even, this is a little bit fancier, but you can even set um, a style that you like, and set that so that it automatically, like, this is my favorite font and size to work in, so I can have it set to where anytime I start a new project or a new scene, it's automatically in that Helvetica New size 14. So I really like that. But going back to the sidebar again, this is the number one most useful thing about it. is that you can look at your whole book here on the sidebar and jump from chapter to chapter. You can move things around. So if I decide, oh, this chapter actually needs to go there, I can do that. The scenes are still there. Let me move that back. Um, I can decide, I want to move this scene over here to this chapter. I can do that. Um, and then, yeah, so you can just drag and drop things really easily and move things around in your book. I've had to do that. And if I didn't have Scrivener to just drag and drop like that, I would have gone crazy. Like, it's hard enough when you realize that you're gonna have to move lots of chapters and scenes around in your book, but not to be able to do it easily just makes things so much worse. So, like, you can even use these arrows over here and say, oh, I want to move this scene down, or move it back up, or move it, make it its own chapter. You can click that left arrow and it ends up over here. Like, see, it's not indented. If it's indented, it's under that chapter, and if it's not, it's kind of its own thing. I'm gonna move it back. Let me move it back up. So there we go. That's where it was. So these arrows come in handy too. So that's the number one thing. And like I said, I have some other things here of resources. This is where I keep some like writing things that I've referred to often. This is how I used to structure my book, so I would always keep that here. This is a Story Shop DNA questions that I refer to sometimes when I need to find out more about a character. So this is a PDF. You can actually bring in PDFs. This is a web page. So I was able to bring in this web page and keep it in here. I don't have to go to the internet, like to the separate internet app and like look that up. It's handy right here. I have this other PDF that I use now for my story structure. Again, very handy. These other writing things that I often refer to is right here in my resources folder. My research folder, if I have anything I need to refer to for the book specifically, like this was a good girl, bad boy romance, so I actually pulled a couple of articles that I refer to. This is about like the good girl, bad boy kind of trope and some examples and more about it. And then over here, I used this in the book and I kept it here to refer to later in case I needed it again. I needed to know these gemstones and what they were called and what they kind of mean. So I pulled that in there. And the way you can do that, um, let's see, I think it's import. Yeah. So import files. So if it's like a PDF or something like that, you can do that. And then you can pick out wherever it is and organize it here in your sidebar. Like if I picked one of these things, it would end up right here because that's the folder that I'm in. But you can, again, drag and drop it wherever you want. And then if I wanted to bring in a web page, same thing, file, import, and then just do web page, and you can just paste in the URL. The fun thing about this is that if you're in your internet browser and you find something, you can just do command copy the URL, and when you come in here, it'll automatically pull it in. You don't have to paste it. It'll just automatically pull it in here. So that's kind of a cool little trick. Some other of my favorite features, let me see if there's anything else here that I like to keep. Oh, I have my pre-production folder. This is again just how I work. I have a sentence summary and outline, ideas and notes. I have like for my whole series, I have a folder for each book just because like these are interrelated books. And so like sometimes I want to refer to an outline for another book or something like that, or I just copy paste. Like if I start a new book, I'll copy paste the other folder, like one of these folders, so that I can start the same process again for the new book. Ideas and notes, description, the beats, all of that. So I keep track of that in here. So like for this book, it was book 3, so I would keep this open. Like I have my ideas and notes for this book, trope research, um, the one sentence description, the longer description, kind of a more rough outline, just jotting down ideas and then expanding on that into detailed beats. And then I like to have, here's a folder for deleted scenes and revision notes, which I didn't really use, but I had in case. I do this for each one of my books. I've seen some of you guys comment of like, how do I set this up? It's really easy. So like Scrivener you use it to write your book, but it doesn't just have to be your book. That's your manuscript folder, so that's where your book goes, is over here. But then you can also make these other folders and other little documents in the sidebar that's all in the same file. That's what I really like. With Google Docs or something else, you have to like go hunt for all these other files, and with this, you have them right here, and you can actually look at two things at the same time. So I'll show you that in a minute, but for now, like the word count chart. So like, again, this is a personal thing that works for me, but I know some other people wanted to try it too and wondering how I set it up. I just kind of write the title, my daily word count goal, my deadline. This I didn't use as much anymore, but you can use that if you want. Um, like because like my scenes vary. But the word count chart, Scrivener lets you set up a table. So let me like set one up over here so you can see. So insert table, and I think I need one more column. And then let's add a few more rows. So see, it just lets you set up the table, and I go back over here to the word count chart, I can just, again, you just fill in. You can set this up however you want, like whatever works for you. Oops, that might not work. So like day, what was it? Day, date, target. There was more actual and total. So I've kind of tweaked this with like my more recent books in total. I didn't used to have this actual column, but now I do. So again, just kind of tweaking my process as I go along. You can resize these, bold it, center it, and then here I would just put day 1, day 2, oops, day 3, and then here the date, so 11 28 18, 11 29 18, 11 30 18. And then over here, if my target is 1,000 words per day, and then when those days actually come up and I write, I can write in here like what I actually wrote, and then keep a total as I go along. So for this, like I'll usually, like if I estimate that this book is going to take me 30 working days, I'll go ahead and set up 30 rows. Again, very easy to just add a row below, just keep doing that. And go ahead and fill in the day, the dates. If I don't do weekends, and I'll skip those dates and just add in the Monday through Friday dates, the targets. And of course, you can always adjust this as you go along. And then by the time you're done, you'll end up with a word count chart like this. So I really like having this just so I have this log of when I wrote this book, what days, how long it took me. It's always fun to go back and see like how many days. This one took me 23 working days, mostly Monday through Friday, and then just to see like those word count totals add up. I really like that, so that's part of my process. And then let's see, down here I have some character arcs. So if I click on Ella, she was the main character for my book 1 of this series. So like I have some pictures here that represent her and what she looks like in my mind. I have some facts about her full name, age, her trope, like that kind of thing. You can fill in as much or as little as you want. I like having all these little details just so like if something comes up in the book, like just so I can stay consistent. Otherwise, I won't remember some things about her. The story shop character DNA really helps, and then I just kind of make a summary, some questions, just to help me figure her out. If you click on the inspector over here, this is something else about Scrivener. I don't really use that much, but sometimes with this like character things, sometimes like you can use them a little bit more. So like you can drag her picture in here, or if you click this thing, like you can have a little summary about her if that's your thing. You can have notes. There's some other things in here, but I like never use it. So again, if you want to I guess you could use this the most to make notes about her, but I just kind of keep it all in this document. So most of the time I just keep the inspector closed. I don't usually use it. But that's something else you can use to make notes. Location, world building, trash. Um, so yeah, that's the sidebar. Let me show you how you can look at two things at once. This, you guys, is like the number two probably most helpful thing about it is that like if you outline and you like to have your beats beside you so you can look as you're writing and refer to them. So what you can do is if you click this little thing over here, it'll split up your screen. Isn't that the most cool feature ever? Like, this is awesome. This is one of my favorite things. So on one side, I keep my beats, and on the other side, see, you click on it, and then that's the window you're working on. You can come over here, and you can be writing your scene over here and looking at your beats over there. So that is definitely one of my favorite things about Scrivener, and probably, I'm not sure how many people know about this, but definitely try this out. You'll probably love it as much as I do. And then down here for each little window, you can zoom in or zoom out. I usually like to have it a little bit bigger just so that I can kind of also see how it's going to look like on a phone or reading device. So like make sure my paragraphs don't get too big and blocky. And then I might keep this a little bit smaller just so I can see more of it at once as I'm writing and moving along. And then you can click on this again just to go back to the one screen. Another cool thing about Scrivener, let me go back to this other like work in progress, not the finished book. So you see it just has the regular scenes out here. And if you see the squiggly lines, that means there's writing in it. And if there's no squiggly lines, it's empty. So again, another good way if you like to lay out all of your scenes at once, like I do, then you can just quickly at a glance see where you're at. And then um, so another cool thing about Scrivener are the three different modes. So the one that I usually leave it in most of the time is this mode on the left, and that just means that if you click on this, like you see the actual words and everything. If you go to the corkboard in the middle, you can actually see the index cards, um, and especially if you don't have this in folders yet, you can just kind of see everything here at a glance. So that's kind of cool if you like working that way. I prefer to just set up scenes over here in the left hand side bar, but I know a lot of writers like to um, just throw out ideas and then move them around and reorganize them. So that's another way you can do that. You just double click and then you'll have a new card. So that's kind of cool. And then again, you can drag these around and everything. So that's something else that you can use, and you can always click on the inspector over here and add more things. You can add it here or click here. Either way works. So there's that. You can, and at the bottom here, it'll tell you there's 32 items there. And then if you happen to have folders, you can just click on the actual folder and see the corkboard just for that folder. Um, and then this other mode is the outline mode, I think. And again, just another way to see your book. And I think you can also just move things around. You can have a label for it, change the label. Like if this is a chapter, you can label it chapter. Or if you can change the status of it. I like to do this sometimes where some scenes are labeled first draft, some are labeled revised draft, some are just final, that kind of thing. You can do that, and you can customize that. That's what I love, is that you can customize that and make the label and status whatever you want. So if you right click on it, or if you right click over here on the sidebar too, label, edit, and it'll come up on the window, and you can just go through, change the color, change what it's called. If you double click on the color, it'll pop up this little color wheel thing over here. I've done that. So this is like my custom ones, but I never use them. You can change status. Again, if you want to change this, however you want. That's kind of cool. Some other things you can kind of customize there. So that's kind of cool. You can also like even color code. So if we go back, you can color code. So you can put use the label color in the binder or the icons, which are these little icons right here. I've done that in the past. In the index cards, in the outliner rows, the scrivening titles. So like, let's say I want to label these scenes as chapter, and it's not doing anything because I don't have it set that way. But if I go over here to view, use label color in the binder, see now they're labeled that way, or you can do it as in the icons or in the index cards. If we go over here to the index cards, then you'll see them labeled that way. So you can play around with that and see what you like. I don't usually use that anymore, but again, if you like to color code things, and if that helps your process, you can do that. That's under view, use label color in. So I'm going to take this off. Sometimes I'll use it for the icons because that's not as like, whoa, you know, but I don't always use it. So there you go. Something else that you can do. Oh, this is like one of the things I get asked a lot about too, is the targets feature. So you can access that through your toolbar if you have it there, or if you go to project targets. So hide project targets, show project targets. So it'll pop up here. So as you can see, I'm 6,500 words into this book. It has this cool little progress bar and the session target, which would be for today. Well, clearly I need to change my deadline here because I am not about to do 14,000 words in one day. That is not me, and that is not going to work. So this is really cool. So you can just change this here. My books are normally 50,000 words, but if yours are 80, or if it ends up, if you think it's going to be 50, but it ends up being 40, you know, you can come in here and change that whenever you want. You can click the options here, and I usually leave everything alone except like I did turn on these because sometimes if you turn this on, it'll give you like a little cool notification sound and banner whenever you reach your daily target. So I like that. That's always fun. You can turn that off. And then the only other thing I mess with is this deadline. So this, I think I'm gonna change this to like 1/3/2019 because I'm kind of behind on this. And then it'll automatically calculate it. If we go over here to the session target, again, automatically calculate from draft deadline. So you can click that and pick the days that you want to write, allow writing on day of deadline. I don't usually mess with everything else. I just have it set to like, it'll reset the session count at midnight every day. And I'm not usually writing at midnight, so that's fine for me, but you can set it to reset whenever you close it, whenever you open it the next day, or never. So I usually like to leave it like that, pretty simple. If I click OK, it'll automatically figure it out for me. So if I want to finish this book by January 3rd, 2019, I need to write 1,671 words per day to hit 50,000 words. And again, that's writing Monday through Friday and writing on the day of deadline. So again, this is one of my favorite fancy features in Scrivener, is that, you know, doing this, the fact that it has this little target feature. I love it so much, you guys. This is one of my favorite things. If I go over here, if you start typing, it'll just, you know, start showing up on the progress bar. If it's 50 words, 100 words, 5,000 words, like it'll start showing up here, and it'll start coloring in the bar the closer you get to the end until it's all the way full. And then that means you're done for the day, which is always a great feeling whenever you're like at the end. And then as you're going along in the book too, it'll just keep getting closer and closer to the end until you reach it. And as you're going for each of these, it'll go from like red, and it'll start turning like orange in the middle, and then it'll turn into this like yellow green. And when you get to that like grass green, really bright green color, that means like you're pretty much at the end. and that's always great seeing that color change. It means you're getting closer and closer. So that's always cool. And I guess they added this here. I always keep it under words, but if you want to do characters or pages instead, you can do that. And so that's what I always keep this open. So I'll keep this down here, and then again I'll have my beats open on one side and my scene on the other side, and this is how I write. Like I just keep this like this, and I start writing over here on this side. I'm eyeing my beats and then keeping an eye on my targets and seeing how far I'm getting, if I want to do 500 word sessions at a time to break this up, or if I just want to do as much as I can in 30 minutes and see how green I can get this progress bar. That's cool too. So that's that. Another thing that I like is this has composition mode. So if I think if you go to project, maybe it's under view. Let's see. So if you go over here to help and you type in composition, so you can, if you type in like a feature, you know what it's called, but you can't remember what it is, it'll pop up for you. So see, it's under file, compile. Oh, it's not. That's compile. I want composition. There we go. Composition mode. So it's under view, enter composition mode. So that's another cool little thing. If you can't remember where something is, go to the help, type it in the search bar, and it should pop up. You just have to remember what it was called. So composition mode. It's under view, enter composition mode. Watch this. So you can just block out all your other distractions and just have your book like this and have nothing else pop up. So you can change where you want your paper. You can change your zoom. I like to have things pretty big. You can change your paper width. You can, you have some other options here. It'll tell you your total word count, your background fade. I like to keep it kind of on the darker side. So that's kind of cool. Okay. Let me see if I'm still, hope this is still recording. I think it is. Okay. So, so that's another really cool feature. And then one of the last things I'll show you is this toolbar. Again, you can customize this however you want. I mean, you can hide it if you want. Let's see here. Yeah, hide the toolbar, or you can customize it. So if you go over here to view, customize, you can customize it that way. The quick and easy way to do that is if you just right click on it, you can customize the toolbar and you can have exactly what you want on it. So I have like my most common features on my toolbar that I like to use. So I have my targets. I don't have the ruler because I never use a ruler. But you can, again, you can, if you want to have just any of these things. Obviously you don't want too much because then there's no room, but yeah, you can choose, remove, add anything that you want, or go back to the default. That's kind of fun. Another thing, let me see what else. If you want to like export this to like a Word doc or something, you're gonna go to the compile. So I have that in my toolbar, it just doesn't fit. Compile. It'll pull up this little window, and here you can basically choose. It's not that great for formatting for EPUB or Mobi anymore. It's kind of complicated. You don't always get what you want, and it's hard to figure it out. But you can compile for PDF. You can do Microsoft Word, so you would just pick Microsoft Word, and then you can pick whatever you want to include, and then you can figure out, like, they even have Vellum export now, so that's kind of cool. But you can actually, this is how you can customize like how it'll be formatted. I had to mess around with it a little bit because this changed recently and now it's kind of complicated. I don't know it as well. But basically, if you play around here with assigned section layouts, you'll figure it out. If you kind of just play with it, export a couple times, see what it looks like, you can figure out like how you want your chapter titles and section breaks and chapter breaks and all that kind of stuff to look like. So again, click assigned section layouts, and you can look at all of those things. Again, just play with it, but you can export to Word and PDF and everything. So, and export it for Vellum. So whenever I format, I just do the Vellum export option, and it's basically ready to go for Vellum. And it takes me like a minute to compile it. So there's that, and I think that's under, yeah, compile file, compile at the bottom. There's this export thing too, but I never use it, so that's not the right thing to use. It's actually the compile. And then you can also sync this so that you can write on the go. That's a little bit more complex. You need to have a Dropbox account because it won't work as well with like the other things like Google Drive. It really needs to be the Dropbox, and if you do a YouTube search for that, you can find videos about that. But I don't really use that as much. Um, Things can go haywire. It's not a perfect process, so I just always write on my desktop anyway. So but I think that's it. I think those are the major things. So some quick options up here. Here you can quickly add a new text. So you just quickly add a new scene there, or you can just do like Command N works too. Another cool little thing, well, here's the rest of the things that are in there. A new folder, you can do a new folder. You can convert this into a folder. Let me see. Yeah, new folder from selection. You can like click on three things and make a folder. New folder from selection. Um, you can change these little icons if you, yeah, so you can retitle right there, or you can retitle over here. Either one works. You can change these little icons down here. Again, convert to folder. You can also, oh, this is kind of cool. Let me delete this. So you command delete, command delete. You can also, if you want to split a scene, you just put your cursor wherever you want to split it at, and you do command K, and that will split a new scene. So let me, so again, you just do add, let's say blah, 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 and let's say I want to split it like right here, command K, and that automatically makes the two scenes wherever you said. So that's kind of cool, and it gives you like the duplicate option too. Move to trash, label, copy to, like, just look around and like you'll find out Scrivener is really just so powerful. There are so many things it can do, but at the same time, you don't have to use any of it if you don't want to. The most common things I use are like the targets, the split screen, um, these little arrows to organize things sometimes. And sometimes I use the command K to split a scene. Um, and of course, I love this little sidebar because I can just look at everything at once and I have all my things here that I need. But really, you know, there's so much that it can do. But even if you use like 10% of the features, you're already miles and miles ahead of using something like Word or Google Docs. So really, if you haven't tried this yet, like give it a try, because even if you think it's too complex and too techy for you, it's really not. Just the fact that it can let you see everything here in the sidebar is incredibly useful and will help you organize your book and see everything at a glance. And then if you want to use another couple features like targets or anything like that, that's cool too. It also has a search function right here, so you can type in a word. If you trying to find something, you can type that in. And then you can also do like Microsoft Word. It has find and replace, but it also has project replace. I've used that several times when I've like decided to change a character name. You can just go in and change that all at once. So that's kind of cool. I mean, and then if you go to the settings, there are some things. Oh, the backup feature is something else um, that a lot of people really like. You can have it set to do automatic backups. So again, there's all these options. I have it set to where if I do Command S, it'll manually back it up. But Scrivener backs up on its own like every second, literally. So you don't have to worry about saving it. It automatically saves. I've never lost work on it. And even if you do like there, you can set it to automatically back up um, and say how many backups you want and where and everything. So that's another cool little feature. Here's where you can like automatically set what font you want and that kind of thing. There's some other options here. Yeah, formatting. Editing formatting is where you can go in and set like I automatically want this font and font size and font color and all of that at all times, and it'll do it for you. There's just a lot you can kind of play around with in here. There's, again, I probably use like what, 20% of like the all the features. Like, I mean, look at everything it can do. I never even go into these tabs, and there's like all these. I mean, you can kind of just glance over and see if you find anything useful and then set that. But other than that, I mean, there's so many little things that it's like I don't even know what that is, and I still get so much from it. So yeah, that's pretty much Scrivener. That's all I can think of. Um, Maybe something else is like um, over here on the outline mode, you can set like word count. Like you can add, there's different options here. If you want to set word count goals and kind of see the little progress bars for each scene. I don't use that, but maybe you like that, and you can decide what you want to see here. But other than that, oh, and then there's the quick ref thing. So that this might be kind of handy for some of you. So if you click on that, whatever window you're on, it'll just pop it out for you, and then you can keep it next to you. Even if you're in the composition mode where you're blocking out everything else, you can keep one of these there too. I don't really use that. I usually like the split screen. But if you have split screen and want to have something else, then you could do that too. So yeah, I mean that's all that I can think of. It lets you bring in PDFs and web pages. Um, yeah, there's just so much it can do. If you have any questions about anything that I went through here, let me know in the comments. But I hope that you saw just how much Scrivener can do, even if you just use a tiny bit of what it can do. Like it just does so much, even if you never use any of the fancy things that it can do. So I'd love to know what you think. If I've convinced you to come over to the dark side with me and start using Scrivener, let me know too. And thank you guys so much. I hope you found this video helpful. Bye.